So when the fixture list came out for 2020-2021, the opening weekend had just one attraction. And now you might say my opinion is biased being a Liverpool fan, but Liverpool against Leeds United at Anfield on opening day, considering that Liverpool have just won their first title in the Premier League era, considering that Leeds United are back in the Premier League after winning the championship, and they're back in the league after more than a decade. I mean, that is a box office attraction, no question. Two historically great teams, two teams fresh off of league triumphs with two charismatic managers. This clash on opening day promises to be feisty, to be entertaining, and to be much, much more. Hi guys, and welcome to the Red Mist podcast, where on today's episode, we will be previewing the clash at Anfield between Liverpool and Leeds United. And to discuss the fixture itself, as well as about Leeds United in general, I am joined by Varun Mani, who is a Leeds United fan from India. How are you doing, Varun?
Hey, hi, Seshadri. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I'm quite honored to be here. Doing very well on top of the world.
Yeah, you should. Back in the Premier League, back amongst the big boys, Leeds United. And, I think, look, this is just my personal opinion. For fans in India, being a fan of a big club, of an Arsenal, of a Man United, of a Liverpool, of a Chelsea, that's kind of the usual norm. And how did you become a Leeds fan? I want to start from there. What attracted you to Leeds?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to talk about it. So I think this started in 2000 and 2001 when Premier League was getting quite big in India, and the telecast was on prime time and quite a buzz about all the teams and the matches. So my brother and I, my elder brother and I, actually, we saw that Leeds had a very young team and they played exciting football. And more interestingly, almost every time Leeds would play, Ian Hart would score a brilliant free kick. Liverpool or Man U or whoever. So I think they just caught my eye at a very young age, and I think it's in me to be a bit different. So instead of going for the regular teams like Manchester United or Arsenal, which were the best at the time, I chose Leeds. And luckily, we had an amazing Champions League run. I love the underdog. And our Champions League story right up to the semi-finals, beating Barcelona, I don't think we beat Barcelona, we beat AC Milan, we beat Deportivo. And we got to the semi-finals with a very, very young team. And it was actually a very exciting time and exhilarating time. And those Champions League games, as well as coming second and third in the Premier League, it kind of got me hooked. And the fans were brilliant. So all these things put together it was a great time to be a Leeds fan, and I caught on.
Yeah, no doubt. Leeds United, obviously, at the time, I was quite young. I think I was you're talking 2001, so I must have been around 6 years old. I didn't quite get into football at that point in time. I used to watch the occasional game, but I did later on, when I grew up, and you kind of read about big clubs, and Leeds happened to be one of them. But it's been after that initial period, I remember Leeds have had some really good players, Rio Ferdinand, for example. So after that period, obviously, it took a downturn. Getting relegated, getting out of the Premier League. And, they came close, I think, in 2006, was it? You lost in the playoffs?
Yeah, correct. We reached the playoff finals in 2006.
Yeah, and that must have been heartbreak, really. Can't even imagine what that's like.
It was horrible. And the worst thing is that the next season, despite getting to the playoff finals, we went down to League One. And the first time in the club's history, we actually reached the third division. So that was the lowest point ever, as I'm sure any other fan would empathize.
Yeah, and it must have been really difficult for you to watch games, because at the time, look, now you have streaming and you can always watch games even 2-3 divisions down. But at the time, it must have been really difficult for you to follow Leeds games. How was that possible for you?
It was actually, it's quite funny. So when they won the championship, which is in 2005 onwards, and then even in League One, there was virtually nothing you could do to watch the game. So I would watch the Football 365 written updates. And I would I don't know if you remember, but SoccerNet was very big a few years ago. And they had this thing called Gamecast or something, which is like a 2D screen, which looks like a Football Manager screen. And every time a player would take a shot, there would be a green dot. And if there was a goal, there would be a red dot on the screen. So I would just sit at the computer, in front of the computer for 2 hours and wait for these dots to come on the screen. And then I would also I'm pretty active on the forums as well. And so I would basically read what the fans were saying about the players and stuff. So that's how I formed my opinion. But basically, I would have no access. And then maybe like a year later or so, there was radio commentary, and
Yeah.
certain fans would stream it, and even BBC would have like a live radio commentary. So I would follow it on audio. This is all the way up till 2015 or so, when when streaming and stuff became quite popular. So pretty tough to follow, but I was always there listening or hearing those text updates. But I was always there for that as well.
Yeah, I think that's really, I mean, for listeners who were born after 2000, and I know there's a fair few of you there, this must sound like the 1960s or something. But you know, yeah, like you said, the Premier League obviously has the broad telecast appeal, but the Championship, League One, and divisions further down than that, they even today they're not as as widely popularized, I guess is the right word, as the Premier League teams are. So I'll just one more thing. Last year, you guys got promoted, and in quite comfortable fashion, to be honest, winning the championship. Were there any celebrations? Because I know there's a fair few Leeds fans in India as well.
I mean, I think everyone during COVID was probably doing like a private celebration. I guess they went a little crazy around the world, and especially in Leeds itself. But at home, I cracked open a beer after ages. It was a pretty subdued thing because it was quite unreal. Like, so I always picture in my head that when once Leeds get promoted, I'll go crazy, I'll go ape shit, I'll go wild with my celebrations, have tears in my eyes and all of that. But I think it didn't strike me because it was so surreal. It is, although we did do it comfortably in the end, there were obviously tense moments, even until those last couple of games. Until we had it wrapped up 3 games earlier, but it just seemed very surreal to me. All of this, so I didn't expect it because 16 years is like half my life,
Yeah,
and that's how long I waited for this moment. So there were no wild celebrations, but obviously I was very overwhelmed and emotional when this happened.
makes sense. I think with Liverpool, it was pretty similar because I think the first time it really hit me was when I saw Jordan Henderson lift the trophy, rather than when Chelsea beat Man City, which was actually the time we won the Premier League. But I think the time it really hit me was when Henderson lifted the trophy, because that is something that you wait for so long. I mean, I've been a Liverpool fan since 2005. You can guess because of which game. But
Champions League. Yeah.
Istanbul. Like that one game was just that was the one game that Liverpool needed to convert me into a Liverpool fan. But I think you dream of this moment for so long that when it actually happens, you don't quite know how to react. And I think that was the case for me when Willian scored that penalty. I mean, I celebrated obviously, but it was not as crazy as I thought it would be.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So just one more thing. Favorite ever Leeds game that you've watched? Could be anything, really.
My favorite game is when we got promoted to back to the championship in 2011.
Yeah.
We were brilliant that season. Actually, we had Simon Grayson as a manager. We had Beckford.
Oh yeah, Jermaine Beckford. Yeah.
We had Beckford. We had Howson. We had Robert Snodgrass. We had Becchio as well, and so we were doing really well that season. We were killing it all the way till Christmas. So we even beat Manu 1-0 at Old Trafford in the FA Cup in the third round, which was brilliant. And we had a great cup run, and we were doing really well until the last few games, and we just hit a complete. We just basically stopped winning games, and we then came down to second. So it came ultimately. Leeds came back to form in the last 4 or 5 games. And it came down to the last home game at Ellen Road versus Bristol City. And this is the first time, I think, in years that Leeds have got almost 40,000 back to Ellen Road, because it's such a huge game.
Yeah.
And if we won that game, we would be promoted back to the championship. So that game had everything. It had a lot of drama. Initially, one of our players, Max Gradel, who's a pretty famous Ivory Coast player, he got a red card. He headbutted the opposition player. We went down to 10 men. And then all things went from that to us. We conceded a goal before halftime, and it was 1-0 down. We thought this Leeds has blown this again, and we had lost the playoffs 2 years in a row before this. So obviously, losing at the last minute, at the last hurdle, is kind of a trait that we identify with. So we thought we've blown this again. And suddenly Johnny Howson comes in, scores a goal. And then not right at the end, a few minutes later, Beckford scores a winner. And I didn't get to watch this match, but I was listening on radio and I was going insane. And it was one of the most brilliant games, like the most unlikely situations, and only Leeds could pull off like a unlikely victory like that. It was amazing, and all the fans came onto the pitch, and that's big, like one of my best memories as a Leeds fan.
Yeah, it's funny because the only, and I know this might sound a little elitist in mentality, I guess, but the thing is, I can never know what that feels like unless Liverpool suddenly decide to go down 2 divisions and then try to come back up. So I don't know if I can empathize with you really, but I can imagine how crazy it must be because Leeds is a one club town. It's a football. It's very passionate about football. So on some level, I can empathize with you, but on other levels, I can't empathize with you. But I'm sure it must have been an amazing moment, really, as a Leeds fan. And
it was very, very important because being in League One for 3 years, it's probably not good for the finances of the club in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. I think promotion does a lot. I know the difference between League One to Championship is not as big as Championship to Premier League in terms of money, but definitely I think being in higher divisions does help you. But 2 years ago, I think Leeds United, I would say this was the coup of the managerial game, I guess, because Leeds United appoint Marcelo Bielsa 2 years ago. And his style of play, I think it's very Marcelo Bielsa. Like, this is a very successful manager. He's influenced a lot of current managers, including Pep Guardiola, for example. So his style of play, do you think, first of all, how, as a fan, you've watched Leeds games now under Bielsa. What do you think of his style of play?
Okay, so just to give you a background on how Leeds had been doing before he came, so from 2008 all the way till 2018, from 2012 all the way till 18, that's 6 years in a row, Leeds finished maybe 12, 13, 14, 15. And the same team which he inherited, they had finished, I think, 14th or 15th in the league. And the entire, from 6 months before that, they had just won two games. So there was a really average squad with absolutely no hope. And despite the fact that everyone was optimistic, no one expected him to do a great job because the squad was pretty average. And I'm being very kind here. So he came in and basically there was a lot of hype about him and the players actually bought into what he does. His entire philosophy is based on being the protagonist. The Leeds team, all his teams basically have to dominate the ball. And if they don't have the ball, they have to win it that quickly. And I'm sure as a Liverpool fan under Klopp, you reckon you would relate to that as well.
Yeah.
It's all about being on the ball, pressing hard, winning the ball back as quickly as possible. And being like one player has to be available for a pass whenever his teammate has the ball. So you rarely ever see a Leeds player in isolation, no matter if it's on the wings or even down the middle as a striker. You'll always have players coming out of their holding positions and moving up the pitch so that you can have a player available. And this style of play is brilliant to watch. It's every game has been fantastic. I've watched a few games more than once, and it's just like it's an education of football to me. Because I've been seeing pretty average Leeds teams and pretty average oppositions in the championship onwards. But it's just been such an education for me. And he's a world-class manager. There's no doubt that his brand of football is meant for a higher league, especially in today's era, where there are more attacking teams like Man City and Liverpool who are doing well, and Bayern Munich as well. So these kind of teams are doing well. It's not the Chelseas of the past, like under Mourinho, or the Italian teams who've been a little tentative with their attacking play who are doing well. It's the attacking teams now who are doing well. And Bielsa was probably far ahead of his time. And I think his time is now to shine. He'll do pretty well, I think, in the league.
Yeah, and I think you're right because attacking football is sort of the order of the day, no matter which league you look at. You mentioned Italian teams, even Atalanta, for example, this year.
Yeah.
The way they play, very attacking football, very, on the front foot. And that's really taken Italy by storm, even Lazio to a certain extent. So you say it will stick in the Premier League. Now, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Now, there are teams who have attempted to do this in the past, and it's a little bit hit and miss. Now, Sheffield United last season did really well, but there have been teams before that who've tried playing attacking football. Even Norwich under Daniel Farke last year, they tried playing attacking football, and then they eventually went down. So my question to you is, does Bielsa change if things aren't working out after the first maybe 6 or 7 games?
No, you're absolutely right. Norwich were a very attacking team. They, in fact, did really well even against us. The season they went up, they finished first. Very good brand of football. Young players who had learned the system. I think Parker had joined a few months before the season that they got promoted. So they had some time to, work into the system and do well. But the difference is that Leeds have got 2 years to work under Bielsa. I think that the players have basically they've ingrained in the system very well. There is a risk and there is a huge risk with the way we play that we'll get caught out at. Like if, the game versus Liverpool, it's basically going to be very difficult for us because we leave a lot of space in for counters. And if a team like Liverpool with fast and skillful players are able to attack, I think we could see a pretty poor scoreline if it all doesn't go to plan. But why I'm positive is because not only do we have like a settled team, we have brought in a couple of players who are high caliber like Rodrigo and Robin Koch. And additionally, we'll be looking to bolster the center of midfield with, and you might have seen the transfer news. We've been linked with Rodrigo De Paul from Udinese, who's a brilliant midfielder. And we've also, obviously, this is exaggerated, but we've also been linked with Draxler, which I don't think will happen. But if we get a good center midfielder in, that will basically help us out a lot in terms of keeping possession and having someone who can carry the ball through the midfield. But I may be blindly optimistic, but I think we're a better team than Norwich. We're a far more experienced team in terms of age than Norwich as well, which I think will help. And you think that Leeds would have, despite all this attacking play, Leeds would have conceded a lot of goals in the Championship. No, but we had a lot of clean sheets. We had one of the best defensive records. We had the best defensive record in the Championship. I think 18 to 20 clean sheets. So if we can remain in possession for a long amount of time, we won't concede goals. And I'm just looking at how Norwich play and how Leeds play. I think we're a lot more equipped than Norwich, and we're more akin to Sheffield in that sense.
Yeah, I think the key thing for me, one of the reasons why Sheffield was able to survive and Norwich weren't was something that you highlighted: experience. I think Sheffield as a side were more experienced. They played like they had more experience. Obviously getting promoted from the Championship to the Premier League, you need to make an investment. And another reason I don't think Norwich did well was because they didn't make investments into the team, if I'm not wrong.
Absolutely.
Whereas Leeds have, and that sort of leads me nicely into a segue. So I wanted to talk about the transfer window. You mentioned Robin Koch and Rodrigo. Now, Robin Koch, I actually have a little bit of a personal anecdote. So this was I don't know if you mentioned. I don't know if you play Football Manager. Do you?
I stopped playing. It's too addictive.
Yeah. So this was FM18 or something, and I was managing Roma, and Robin Koch was brought to my attention from one of my scouts in the game. And I signed him, and he ended up sort of being the centerpiece in that defense for Roma, which I ended up winning the Serie A with. But Robin Koch he's been very impressive. So just to give listeners a little bit of a background, he's joining Leeds from Freiburg. Made his international debut recently in the last week or so. Played 32 games for Freiburg last year. Very impressive season for them as a team as well. Finished 8th in the league and had the 6th best defensive record in the league. Your initial thoughts? Have you watched him play?
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of videos on YouTube and stuff like that. And I try to watch a pre-season game also before he joined, because he's been heavily linked for a while. So firstly, we signed him because we missed out on Ben White, who was a brilliant player for us. Brighton refused to sell him to a relegation rival, even despite us, willing to pay around 30 million for him. But so Robin Koch is very, very good at long passes. He's 6'3", very good in the air as well. And his ability to find players in the wide areas, which is very key, in terms of switch of play, like the similar thing that Liverpool do. I think it's very important. He's also a good central defensive midfielder. And in case Calvin Phillips is injured or suspended, he can step into that position as well. Furthermore, he's about 24 years old, and which is not considered that young anymore. But he's one of those late bloomers. He started off in the lower leagues, and he got his move through sheer hard work and application up the leagues. And Freiburg, as you said, had a brilliant season, and because of that, he got his first international call up last year. And playing for Germany is no joke. So I think overall he's a very, very astute signing. We got him into his last year of contract for 13 million euros, which I think is will work out to be quite a steal in my opinion. So the difference between why I'm a bit worried is because he's not as good on the ball as maybe Ben White. Ben White used to help us out a lot in the defense. So when the opposition teams would press us, his ability to dribble past the first line of defense would help relieve the pressure on Leeds. So I think Diaz has to find a way to uh, you know work around that opposition press in some other way because neither Liam Cooper, his centre back partner, nor Robin Koch are as good on the ball as maybe Ben White was. So yeah, that's a little bit of the drawback, but I think he's a good signing, a good caliber signing.
Definitely. I think for 13 million, he might turn out to be a steal if he can replicate what he did with Freiburg last year. The other big signing, Rodrigo, from Valencia. Now, Valencia is a club deep in financial trouble, so I don't want to get too much into their financial details. But by, I guess, normal striker standards, and I'm very loosely using that term, he had a very underwhelming season. Scored only 4 goals, had 9 assists, but that's not something that you would use to judge Rodrigo, I don't think, because Rodrigo to me reminds me a little bit like of Olivier Giroud, in a sense, not in terms of physicality or not in terms of the way he plays the game, but rather um, you don't expect him to score a lot of goals, but I think he'll do other things that don't show up on a stat sheet, which help the team a lot. And he's obviously got a big price tag on his head. 30 million pounds right now, which is what Leeds paid for him. So now this is just my personal opinion, and you may disagree with me. I personally think he needs to give at least 15 goal contributions. That's goals plus assists. This year, if he is first choice for Leeds, for them to, I think, be a comfortable mid-table team at least. Now, in my preseason predictions, I had Leeds at 15th, but if Leeds want to sort of be better than that, I think Rodrigo is going to have to contribute to more goals coming from Leeds. Your thoughts on Rodrigo as a player, as to what he can bring to the Leeds team?
No, absolutely agree. I think 15 contributions sounds about right. So one thing I'm struggling with is where is he going to play? Because for Spain and for Valencia, he plays as so for Spain at least he plays as an out and out striker. At Valencia, he's been playing as a second striker. So Leeds play only with one man on top, and we play with a number 10 also, or number 9 behind him. So his hold up play isn't as like maybe a Giroud level hold up play. Neither is he as physically strong as Bamford, who's worked on that aspect of his game. So why I can see Leeds buying him is because of his dynamism. He's a very hardworking player, firstly, and his ability to either play as a central striker or maybe behind the striker will be very beneficial for us. Also, another aspect as to why Leeds would have bought him is because we are very good at counter attacks, and he seems like an ideal counter attacking style player. He has good feet. He's very direct in his play. He's a very good shooter also. So I think for when we get pressed in the own half through our wingers and through him in the middle, I think we'll be very well equipped on the counter attack through Rodrigo. So I see a reason why Leeds bought him. Also his experience. He's got a good pedigree. He's not young. He's 29. But I think we need some, top level experience brought into the side and a bit of clinicality. Although he's only scored 4 goals, he seems to be more clinical than Bamford would be. Bamford has never scored too many. He's not scored a lot of goals in the Premier League. But I think we'll need someone like him who can head the ball well as finish with his left foot.
I think Rodrigo's experience is one of the key reasons I think why Bielsa bought him. And the fact is, he works really hard. I think his work ethic, whether it's for Spain or Valencia,
Yeah,
that's never been in doubt. Which is, I think, why, because if you look at it on the basis of just stats, if someone showed you, you know, a striker with 4 goals and 9 assists in the league, and if you ask them, would you take him for the Spanish national team, they're probably going to be like, no. I mean, I'm sure there's people who've scored at least 10 goals a season.
yeah.
But I think it's what he brings to the table outside of just scoring and, assists. I think that's what makes Rodrigo special.
He seems like an
Um,
intelligent player, and I think his pressing and all of that will help Leeds a lot.
Definitely, and I think it's key to Bielsa's system because you mentioned Bielsa and Klopp are quite similar in terms of pressing from the front, and in some ways he is a little bit like Roberto Firmino, because Firmino also came under criticism last year. Now he had, as a Liverpool fan, I will admit he didn't have the best of seasons last year. I think the season before that was much better for Firmino.
Right.
But Firmino does a lot of things that allow Salah and Mane to excel, and I think that's similar, although not exactly the same. I think that's similar to what Rodrigo would be expected to do at Leeds. You mentioned wingers, and one person that I do want to talk about, he was on loan at Leeds last year, Helder Costa. Played 43 games in the championship, 4 goals and 6 assists. Mainly played in the right wing, if I'm not wrong. I watched a few Leeds games. He was playing in the right wing, and
Correct.
his deal's been made permanent. I think this is one of the most underrated signings. I think Helder Costa, and it's another person that I will bring up as well. But I think Helder Costa is one of the most underrated signings of the transfer window, I think.
Yeah, so he's been so he had a bit of injury issues at Wolves, and they probably had higher ambitions, for their own team, and it probably meant that him and Cavallero left for the championship again. So I think we had a really good deal to get him in. 15 million seemed a lot like a really high amount for Leeds to pay, but it was a gamble. I think I'm glad that it's worked out. He had a very good season. Initially, he wasn't all that. He seemed a bit overweight, at least in terms of Bielsa standards. But then he really came into his own, and that's when our counter-attacking play really came into the picture. His link-up play and his ability to find the overlapping fullback, as well as his ability to cut in, really, really helped us a lot. I think we've not, as Leeds fans, we've not seen the best of him. I think he will get better now with the full preseason and an entire season with the Bielsa system, ingrained into him. I think we'll see a lot more. The only thing I'm doubtful about is that his right foot is very weak, and at times his first touch does let him down. But I think he's a supremely talented player. If as long as he works on his finishing a bit, I think he's going to be a really, really good player for us. He's been really good.
Yeah, definitely. I think I think Wolves saw much more in him when they bought him than what he gave them. But I think he's definitely done well for himself at Leeds, and if he can be successful in the Premier League, and if Leeds decide to make a profit of him at some point in the future, I think that'll be really good for them as a club. The other one that I do want to talk about, and this is kind of like a story of the championship, a Hollywood story of the championship, I guess. Illan Meslier, 6'6" French under-21 international goalkeeper, was on loan from Lorient last year. Competed for second choice initially, and then he has a meteoric rise into the into the Leeds United first team. Bielsa announces that he will start the FA Cup tie against Arsenal. Makes an impressive debut, to be honest. That was the first time I watched him. Has an impressive debut. I think his distribution especially caught my eye. And then he makes his league debut about a month and a half later. 4-0 win away at Hull City. And then when Kiko Casilla gets suspended, he ends the season keeping 7 clean sheets in 8 games for Leeds. And I think I don't know where Bielsa will stand on this first choice keeper issue between Casilla and Meslier, but I think for me, Meslier has shown enough to merit being the first choice. Would you agree?
I do agree that Meslier has been excellent. He's looked a lot. So Casilla had a very good start at Leeds when he joined, as well as at the start of the season. But he's been extremely prone to poor judgment, errors of judgment in
Hmm.
terms of coming out of the box and even like coming in for crosses. And so he's had, although Casilla has also had a lot of clean sheets. I think Leeds have done really well, protecting their goalkeepers. I think Meslier has looked way more assured than Casilla in terms of his composure on the ball with his passing as well as with his feet, as well as the way he's got into position and he's come for crosses, and even his shot stopping looks far more superior than Casilla. Unfortunately, although I think he deserves the start against Liverpool, he's not been featured. He's not been able to feature for the last week or so because of international commitments. And I don't know if that will, that will affect Bielsa's thinking in terms of should he start Pico or should he start Meslier. But I think with Meslier, I'm really more confident, and Leeds fans will be shitting their pants if Casilla starts. I think he's become a bit of a liability. In addition to that racism charge that has been affecting her mentally also. So I think we won't be in a good position. Be a lot more jittery with Casilla and goal. Meslier looks like he could be a very, very astute signing for 5 billion. I think he has a good future ahead of him.
Definitely, I think I think Meslier is Meslier. Personally, I think Meslier should start the game against Liverpool. If I was a Leeds fan as well, I would probably agree with that. But yeah, I don't know where. I mean, this odd international break has sort of thrown every manager's plans into chaos. So I don't know where Bielsa would stand on that. And the thing is, Casilla was Bielsa's preferred choice before, and I think the suspension sort of forced his hand into playing Meslier. So we don't know how much of a role that plays. Whether he sticks to someone, I guess that he started with last year, or does Bielsa? Because Bielsa, like you said, he when it comes to tactics, he's not known very much to change his style of play. So I don't know if that same line of thinking applies to his lineups as well. Um, you mentioned a little bit earlier about central midfield being an area that needs strengthening, and Leeds has been linked to Rodrigo de Paul from Udinese, Argentine international, and they've been linked to German international Julian Draxler from PSG. I think that's on a loan, potential loan deal if that does happen.
Right.
Um, are there any other areas that you think need strengthening, or is it just central midfield for now?
I think if we could somehow get a good goalkeeper instead of Casilla, I think, and we got a central fielder as well. Leeds fans would be absolutely delighted. We'd be over the moon. But I think central midfield is the most important position. I think through the last couple of years, we've most of our play has come down to the fullbacks or and the wingers, and sometimes through the channels when Bamford makes a run, with some long diagonal balls to him. We've really not built up a lot to the center, and as a result, we've seen Pablo Hernandez, sitting back, sitting a bit deeper than he usually would be, trying to dictate play and trying to find passes that Click and maybe Kevin Phillips don't have the ability to, figure out those kind of passes. So I think someone like an all-round midfielder like Rodrigo de Paul, and that's why Leeds are willing to spend that much, because they probably see that there's no point signing someone just for the sake of it. If you can find someone who's better than what we currently have, who fits into the requirement that Leeds to have, I think it will be really, really important. So Rodrigo de Paul he has amazing vision. He has great skill on the ball. He's a good dribbler. He can carry the ball, and he's also not afraid to get stuck in when required. I think that he's a complete central midfielder for me. And with Calvin Phillips sitting deep and Click, linking up play between the midfielders and the forward, as well as finding space in behind the defenders, I think someone like Rodrigo de Paul, who can just stay in the middle and find those passes. Because if we rely on Pablo Hernandez, who's 35, I think we'll be in a lot of trouble. So I think Leeds are willing to spend in that position. I think that's more important than keeper, but I think we need to get a central fielder in for sure.
Yeah, I think a central midfielder would make for a very good transfer window. As for keepers, I think Casilla for second choice, I think would still be okay. Like, I think if Bielsa starts with Meslier, and if Meslier proves capable enough to play in the Premier League confidently, I think you're sorted for keeper, at least uh, like having two second choice. I mean, having two keepers who are brilliant and a second choice keeper who could be a first choice keeper. Like, you see at Arsenal, for example, they've got Bernd Leno and Emiliano Martinez. It's very rare that clubs land on those sort of combinations where both keepers could be first choices at other clubs. And I think generally, if you have Meslier who does really well and Casilla who can be a good backup, maybe play the occasional cup game and, hold his own in those at least. I think that would be okay. So I'm not sure keeper is a pressing need, but central midfield, definitely. I think having watched Calvin Phillips, and I know this is just one game, so it's not even a sample size worth mentioning, really. I've watched Calvin Phillips recently, when he played for England. And I watched him a few times in the championship, but I think the England game is when I really gave him attention because, the fact that he was called up itself was a surprise. And then, he did put in a decent display, but I think he's more of a number 6. Someone who can break up play and play the next pass to a person close to him, to a more creative player, I guess. So I think having that more creative player in your team would only help. And Draxler or Rodrigo de Paul, whoever it is, if Leeds do manage to get that person, then I think they're in a good position. So in my preseason predictions, when I was predicting the league table in the episode before this, I had Leeds at 15th, but I did add this caveat that any team from 10th to 15th, 10th to 16th is very fluid because a few injuries, a run of form, there's a lot that can change within those spots. And a team that I've predicted at 15th was Leeds. And I said, they can end up anywhere between 10th and 15th, really. So what are your expectations for this season? What would a successful season for Leeds look like?
Yeah, no, so I agree with you. I think 15th, we'll all, we'll take that right now, right off the bat, no doubt. We don't want to be in a relegation battle. I think the pressure will be extremely high because it's been 16 years and you might have noticed that there's been excessive media, shining light on Leeds' promotion, and also Leeds being a big club faces more pressure than some of the low position teams as well. So I don't think we want to see ourselves in a relegation battle. As long as we're safe from relegation, I think we'll be really happy. I think realistically, we could look at anywhere between 11th to 15th as what I would be expecting at the minimum. And if we get in good players like DePaul and it really clicks, and if we have some luck with injuries, I think we can push top 10 also. But I'm just being optimistic. I'm an optimist. And, we don't do normal. We either really do well or we blow up. So I would say we could aim for a top 10 if we get in a player like Rodrigo de Paul.
Yeah, I think top 10 should be possible, but I think it will. So for me, I had Sheffield as 10th because I think they will suffer a little bit of the second season syndrome. And, teams would have figured them out a little bit. So I had Sheffield dropping down to 10th. And I had Everton at 9th. Now, Everton's an interesting team for me because they have the potential to sort of be involved in a fight for a Europa League spot. But, they're a team that also perennially underachieves. They're like the West Ham of the top half, basically. And yeah, so I don't know where. So it depends on how Everton do. If Everton get caught in a battle with your teams like Leeds, like Newcastle, like Sheffield, rather than, trying to battle Wolves and Leicester for a Europa League spot, then I think Leeds has the potential to even go all the way up to 9th or 8th even, depending on how things go. And as for cup competitions, the FA Cup and the League Cup, I think, how important are they to you?
To me personally, as a fan, I'm sure other fans will agree. I don't think they see the cup as important, but obviously Marcelo has a lot of respect for all forms of the game. So we'll play some youngsters because there's a good contingent of youngsters coming to the league since the last 2 or 3 seasons. So I think he will rotate a bit, but not too much so as to, be involved in those accusations of not taking the cups too seriously. But I'm really okay. I don't really care about the cups, to be honest. I think it matters a lot when you're in the lower leagues because it's like a good payday for the club. And you get a lot more, you get a bit of that media exposure and you get a whole feeling of, those big games against former rivals. Now we have those anyway in the Premier League. So I'm okay with the cup as long as we can focus on the league and we can consolidate in the league itself. Then we have a good platform to build.
Yeah, that's actually interesting because when Liverpool was sort of the dog days, you're talking Roy Hodgson managing Liverpool and Paul Konchesky playing at left back. During those days, I think we were struggling to finish seventh, let alone compete for titles or whatever. In those days, I think I know we don't treat the cups as an important competition generally. Not many Premier League fans do. But I think winning a cup in those days would have boosted morale a little bit. And we did win the League Cup in 2012, beating Cardiff in the finals. But I think that boosted morale a little bit. So I don't know if that thought process will come into Bielsa's mind. I think especially if there comes a point where you've progressed a little bit in the cup, let's say the FA Cup or the League Cup or whatever, and you know that you're not involved in a relegation battle. So I don't know if that thought process comes into Bielsa's mind saying, okay, you know what, we're kind of safe in the league. We're not competing for a Europa League spot or a Champions League spot. Let's just throw everything at the cups. So I don't know if that comes into his mind at all. But it'll be interesting to see the youngsters as well.
Absolutely. So just to come back to your point on how Bielsa would be thinking is, if we have a good cup run with like a few changes with the youngsters coming in and stuff. So he's a pretty loyal person. Like he has very good principles, and I'm sure you heard about his loyalty, how he rewards it. So I think even if we reach like the quarters or the semis of any of the cups, I think he won't change the side. He won't say that, okay, I'm going to put out one of the youngsters and put in one of the senior players. So I think he'll be loyal, and even at the cost of winning the trophy or moving on, I think he'll still choose a youngster over a senior player. If he deserves a spot in the cup side.
Yeah. I think that's a very underrated quality for managers, being loyal to the side, because a lot of the time you see, and this happens especially with keepers, a lot of the time you'll see the second choice keeper play all the way till the semi-finals, and then when it comes to the finals, you'll see a David De Gea starting, for example, if it's United. So I think that's an important thing. I think if you're a second choice keeper and you've led the team all the way to the finals, you deserve to make the start for the finals. And that goes not just for keepers, that goes for every position really. Right. So just to sort of finish things off, what do you think your predicted lineup would be for Leeds for the game against Liverpool, that is?
I think just based on the last 10 days or so of pre-season, I think Casilla will start in goal. Left back would be Dallas. Centre back would be Liam Cooper, who's the captain. I hope that we play Robin Koch, and because Ayling will be a right back, and Ayling is really, really important to the side because he substitutes at times as a man in the center of midfield, and his link up with Costa on the right is very, very important. So will be Ayling on the right. Sitting as a defensive midfielder would be Calvin Phillips.
Yeah.
And ahead of them in the second midfield would be Pablo Hernandez and Matheus Flick. And on the left wing would be Jack Harrison, who we've extended on for a third consecutive loan from Man City. I think he's an exciting player as well, along with Costa on the right. And striker, I think, will be Bamford. I don't think Rodrigo will start. I think Bielsa will ease him in. I think because of the lack of preparation time between the times they've signed and due to this international break, I think he'll probably go in with a more tested version. And I think Bamford has done really well for us as a striker. I think he'll stick with him at least for now.
Makes sense. But do you see Rodrigo sort of being brought on as a substitute at some point?
Yeah, absolutely. So today's press conference, Bielsa already said that both of them are match fit. It's just a matter of whether they've understood the system, that the roles that they're required to play, because that's really important. Fitness, of course, is crucial, but if understanding the system, if you can show that you have the ability to adapt into the Bielsa system quickly, then definitely you'll be rewarded with the start.
Yeah, understanding the system is important, because you don't want the thing with Bielsa, and it applies to Klopp as well. The thing is, when you're playing in a system that presses, you need to press as a team, And even if one player is out of sync of sort of that pressing system, then that allows the opposition to just go right through you, and the whole concept of pressing and winning the ball back becomes useless at that point. So yeah, I can see why Bamford might start. I think most Liverpool fans would expect Rodrigo to start because he's the bigger name. He is the the 30 million pound signing and Spain international and so on. But yeah, I can see why Patrick Bamford would start against Liverpool. Now, as for Liverpool, there are questions about Henderson's fitness. So I don't know if he's going to start in midfield. I think if he passes a late fitness test, he will. But yeah, I think in goal, I think it's pretty expected. Alisson, right back, Trent. He seemed fit when he played for England.
Yeah.
In the second game against Denmark, so I think he should start. Although how many minutes he'll play is a little bit of a question. And yeah, so Trent should start at right back. Van Dijk and I would expect Joe Gomez to start. Although Joel Matip did play quite well in the last preseason friendly, and Joe Gomez also played the full 90 minutes against Denmark. So I'm not quite sure if Klopp wants Joe to play again this weekend. At left back, I would expect Robertson to start. And then in midfield is where, like I said, the questions do arise. I think Wijnaldum starts. I think Fabinho starts. But I think the third midfield spot, if Henderson's a doubt, I think I would expect Naby Keita to start because he's been by far, along with Minamino, the most impressive player in preseason. So I would expect Naby Keita to start if Henderson is not starting. And as for the front three, I think it's just going to be the same: Firmino, Salah, and Mane. So, yeah, should make for an exciting game. Really, two sides that press very high, that play attacking football. What are your predictions for the game?
So I think you always although the system, I mean, the kind of work ethic, and the position play and the pressing that Leeds and Liverpool share, I think there's always a difference in quality, which will obviously come to the fore. And I think the fact that you'll press so hard, and the fact that even Leeds press as hard, but I think the fact that your players are way more skillful than any of the Leeds players, I think you all will comfortably win, maybe by 2-1 or 3-1. I think that's my prediction for Liverpool victory. I'm a bit scared of the fact that you'll press so aggressively, and Salah, Mane, and Firmino all pressing with, say, like a Wijnaldum or someone behind them who's actively pressing even behind these three. I think it's going to be a bit of a struggle for Leeds. I think where we can succeed is through our counter-attacks. And I think if we can get the ball and we can find space for our players, I think our understanding between our players is pretty good. So I expect us to score a goal. But I still think you all will win, just because the level of quality in the individual players is much higher at Liverpool than it is with Leeds. I'm not expecting anything for this game. It's like a free hit. It's like our Community Shield game.
Yeah.
But I just want a good performance. I just want to be proud of the players, and just to see that Bielsa ball can cause some difficulty in the Premier League.
Definitely. I think for me, the worry is that we've looked very sluggish in preseason. We didn't look great against Stuttgart, a side we should be comfortably beating. We fell down 2-0 to very early goals from Salzburg. And then again, we went down 2-0 to Blackpool as well. So we've looked very sluggish. We've looked very sloppy at times. The Blackpool game did sort of, it was kind of like a kick in the teeth going down 2-0 there. And then, of course, we came back to win 7-2. But I think what is a worry for me is, you mentioned Leeds' counter-attack. And I think what I've seen over preseason is that Liverpool somehow, I don't know if we're trying to replicate what Bayern Munich are doing, but we're playing really high. And we normally play a high line, but I've never seen Liverpool play this high before. And so that's a little bit of a worry for me, that we can get caught out of Leeds if Leeds do play well. I mean, all it takes is just one through ball and a well-timed run. And if you have a pacey winger, if you have a pacey striker, then I think Leeds can cause issues in that sense. Now, I'm going to say, since we've looked very sluggish, I'm going to go for a Liverpool win, but it's going to be a very narrow sort of 1-0, 2-1, that sort of thing. I'm going to go with 2-1 Liverpool, because I think we have looked sluggish, and I think Leeds could end up scoring 1 goal at least. So that's my prediction. But yeah, I think that brings us to a close on today's episode previewing the opening game of the season between Leeds and Liverpool. James Milner's career completing a circle of sorts, really. Thank you so much, Varun, for doing this.
Thanks a lot, Seshadri. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, the Premier League... Sorry?
Good luck to you for the season ahead.
Yeah, same to you as well. The Premier League returns this Saturday with Fulham taking on Arsenal at Craven Cottage in what is the first of 380 matches that will decide if Liverpool can go back-to-back or if someone else will take it from us. Thank you very much for listening. Do keep following this podcast for weekly Liverpool content. Hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I've been Seshadri. Goodbye.